Sorry, just bear with me one moment, please. Right, sorry about that, just finishing some marking. Okay, well, it's lovely to meet you. My name is Miss Lucy, and I will be your English teacher. Now today, I believe we are working on English slang and phrases. Great, okay. Well, I have a wonderful selection for us today. Now, you are more than welcome to take down notes, or you can just visit our online portal after today's class and you can visit what we've spoken about today. Yes, of course, there's a little notepad there. Yes, you can use that pen. And if you need anything else, you just let me know. And throughout this lesson, if you need any extra help with pronunciation or spelling of any of the words or phrases, you just let me know. Great. Now I always like to get a little bit of an idea as to why my students have decided to take my class. So what's the reason for you? Oh, fantastic. Well, for me as well, I have friends around the world and often they are a little bit flummoxed by my expressions, so it's always a good idea to just take a little bit of an interest and try and find out a little bit more, as I like to with other languages. So today will definitely help you to understand a bit better the phrases that your friends are using. Okay? Perfect. Well, let's get started. I'm actually using a new online facility which has provided me with today's syllabus, so bear with me a moment. It's a little bit slow. Okay, so I think we'll just go through a random selection today, and then should we need to drill down any further into anything, we can do that in another lesson. Okay, so let's start with the bee's knees. Now this is a phrase that is commonly used if something is really, really good. So you could say something like, "Oh, that chocolate pudding was the bee's knees last night." Yes, just like you would spell, a bee and then knees, it's just the bee's knees. Yes, I can see if I've got another example of that. Again, so it says this phrase became mainstream actually in the USA in the 1920s, despite its British origins, and since then its popularity in the States in particular has dwindled a little bit, and it's much more commonly used in the UK, but again, just used to describe anything that's really cool, that's really good, so you could use it as a descriptive word or phrase for anything like that. Okay, with me so far? Perfect. Let's move on then. Now, if I were to say, "Oh, tonight I think I'm going to go on a bit of a bender," what do you think I would be doing? This is one your friends use. Yes, it does. So it just means, really, it's not the nicest term, but it does mean just to excessively binge drink. So if you were to say, oh, I'm really, really hungover today, I was on such a bender last night, that would mean that you were basically binge drinking, trying to get drunk. Yes. Okay, you fine on the pronunciation of that one? Bender. Perfect. Okay, well, so far so good. Let's move on then. Now, something you might hear quite a lot is the words bloody or bleeding used. Now, obviously, these are quite morbid terms normally, but they are actually used quite commonly in the UK. So, we would use it in the sense of something like, oh, that show I saw last night was bloody brilliant. Or, bleeding hell, I just dropped that brick on my foot. So it can be used in both a negative and a positive way, so it's a little bit confusing. But you may have heard bloody used in films like Harry Potter. Some people do consider it to be more of a taboo or swear word, but I think perhaps not something to be used in a professional environment, but around friends and family, it's quite commonly used. Yes. Yeah, so they can both be used either positively or negatively. It was raining so bloody hard last night, and again, oh, what a bloody brilliant TV show I just saw. And the same with bleeding, so use both in the same ways, but just be careful, pick the situation, and often it's not particularly looked upon well if you were to use it in front of the older generation. Okay? Good. I know it can be a lot to take in, but you're doing really well. So let's move on. So if I were to say to you, Bob's your uncle, what would I be trying to say? Not sure. So it would basically be a way to say, hey presto. So are you familiar with that sort of phrase? Yes, it's almost like et voila, French. Imagine you've just completed a beautiful tiered decorated cake, and you would say, Bob's your uncle. It's all done. There you go, finished. It's just used in that kind of sense. Yeah, I can write it down for you. That's no problem. You'll have to excuse my writing. So it simply is Bob as in name, so Bob's apostrophe your uncle. And again, it's normally used after completing a task. It's tend to be used by the older generation a little bit more, but again, it's still a phrase that is quite old-fashioned, and it is good to be aware of it. Okay, not a problem, you just take a moment. So let's move on. How are you finding it so far? Good. Is the pace okay for you? Great. Well, I think you're being an excellent student. So let's just have a look at what we've got next. Okay, so if I were to say, today I had a really good chinwag, what would I be trying to say? Yes, chin wag. No. So what I would actually be saying is I had a really good little chat or gossip. Now this is typically used more by females, and you would simply say, perhaps I'm going to pop round to Linda's for a chinwag. That's how it's typically used. Yes, just like a little chat. But a chinwag typically refers to more of a gossip. Yes, exactly. And it's said to be coined from the fact that when women talk really fast, and I imagine men as well, their chins wag and move up and down very quickly. So there you have it, chin wag. I know it's a little funny one, but there we are. Okay, now if I were to say I was really chuffed, this would mean that I was really, really pleased, basically. Really pleased. So you could use this if you just wanted a different word apart from, you know, you really enjoyed something, or you're really happy about something. So you could say something like, oh, I'm really chuffed with those shoes that I just bought. Or, oh, I'm so chuffed to be going on holiday. I'm so excited. So it's more of a positive word. It can be used negatively in the long sense of, oh, chuffing how that person took my parking space. Chuffing, so CHUFFING, chuffing. Yes, so you have chuffed and chuffing, but normally chuffing is more negative and chuffed is more positive. Okay? Well done. You're doing a really good job of keeping up. Well done. Okay, so let's keep it going. Okay, so if I were to say I was gobsmacked, why would I be gobsmacked? Excellent. Yes, it would be because I was shocked. I was shocked. So perhaps you could say something like, oh, do you know, there was an absolutely huge balloon just floating down the street, just touching cars, almost like a hot air balloon. I was completely gobsmacked. Something like that. Or perhaps potentially something a little bit more shocking. You know, so it's typically used perhaps more at the end of a sentence. You know, I was completely gobsmacked. You wouldn't have something like gobsmacking, anything like that. It would just be gobsmacked. Yes, so that's just G-O-B. B, yes, and then smacked, so S-M-A-C-K-E-D, gobsmacked. Alright, so do you want to try and use it in a little sentence back to me? Excellent, really well done, well done. Okay, well, we are flying through these. Normally I have to take a little bit longer, especially if people haven't heard the phrases at all before, but as you've heard some of them from your friends, you know, you're a little bit more advanced, which is great. So, if I were to have to leg it, why would I be legging it? Yeah, so it's a little bit of a kind of, more of a cheeky, naughty one. So if you, I don't know, pinched a packet of sweets from the sweet shop and your friend nudged you and said, "Oh, quickly, I think the shopkeeper's seen us, let's leg it." So it's typically used to mean to run away, potentially out of a situation that you need to get away fast from. Okay, so just leg it. Leg it. Perfect, perfect. Now, if I were to say something like minging, this would mean that something was particularly disgusting and not very nice. Now, this has been used typically on some television shows in the UK and is associated more with I would say the chav of the UK. And a chav is someone who is perhaps the opposite, shall we say, to the Queen and the royals. So they may be speaking a little bit less well spoken, shall we say, and they're known for dressing perhaps in things like tracksuits. We would say a little bit more common. Have you heard of that? Yes, it's a little bit of a difficult one to describe, but they may typically use the word minging to describe. It could be a person, it could be something that had happened. For example, you could say, "Oh, Dave didn't even make it back home, he was sick in the car, absolutely minging." And often it would be, they wouldn't actually say the ing on the end, it would be minging, more of the in. Yes. No, I know, it's not my favourite word, but it is something that, it's part of our culture and it's good to just be aware of it. Alright, let's keep going. You're doing really, really well. So, this one was coined from another show, actually, and if I were to say, "Oh, tonight I'm going to go out and get mortal," what would I be wanting to do? Good, very, very good. So this was used in a show called Geordie Shore. Okay, and it basically just means to go out and get absolutely, completely wrecked, which also basically means very drunk. To have a really, really good time, to really go out, party hard, but get absolutely, completely drunk. So that's typically what it means. Yeah, and you could say something like, "Oh God, I got so mortal last night." Something like that. It's, I would say, more used up north. It's not typically used down south as much, but it's good to be aware of the types of things you may be hearing. Great. Are you enjoying it so far? Yeah, do you feel it's helping a little bit? Good, good. Well, obviously we do have a lot to cover, hours and hours, but today was really about just giving you a snapshot of the sort of things you'll be learning. Alright? Good, I'm glad you're enjoying it. So we'll just go through a few more, okay? So, if I were to say something like, "Oh, it's gone pear-shaped," Why would I be saying that? Almost. So it's typically used if something has gone wrong. So, oh God, I was in such a rush to get to this wedding, but my car's broken down, I've got mud on my dress, everything has gone pear-shaped. So it's just used to describe potentially more of a series of events that's gone wrong. Pear-shaped, so just like the fruit, pear-shaped. Good. So, again, if I were to say something like shambles, it's along the same lines, but you would say something like, oh God, that party was a disaster. It was a total shambles. Yeah, I can spell that for you. So, again, typically used towards the end of a sentence as more of a descriptive word. Okay, so it's just SHAMBLES, shambles. Okay, so you could say, oh God, I'd made all these plans and everything has gone to shambles. Great. Now I can tell you're really getting, that basic understanding, so that's really, really good. Well done. Okay, so we'll just do a couple more. Alright. Don't want to go over our lesson time for today. I know, I'm sure you've got lots on. So, if you were to have skived this lesson today, what would you be doing? Skived. So I'll write it down as well again. So this is typically something that I would say originated in school. So you could say I'd skived school today. And it's SKIVED. And it basically just means to miss, class or school or work. So you could say something like, oh, I've decided to skive off work today. Something like that. So it's just to intentionally, miss work or miss school or miss an event. Good. I'm glad to hear you're not a skiver. Very good. Now we'll end on a classic British one. And if I were to say to you, I would love a cuppa, what would I be asking for? Very, very good. So I would be asking for a cup of tea. And in the UK, typically when you ask for a cup of tea, you will receive English breakfast tea. Now this can be drunk on its own, so black, but typically the most popular way to drink it would be with a dash of milk, and you can either choose to add sugar or sweeteners or just drink it as it is. Okay, and from cuppa you have things like builder's tea, which is known as quite strong tea, and that typically again has the milk in, but it tends to be quite strong, quite kind of hardy, I would say. Yes, exactly right. So if I were to say, I'm going to pop round Lauren's after work for a Chinwag and a cuppa, what would I be saying? Perfect. You have been such a good student today. You really have. I'm so proud. How have you found it? Excellent. Well, let me just double check that I haven't missed anything from today's syllabus. Okay. No, you didn't seem to have any problem with pronunciation, which is perfect. Let's see. We've still got a lot to cover, but for today's lesson, I am definitely going to award you an A star. Very well done. Now, you have all the information, don't you, to access our online system? Perfect. So I want you to go away and just revise a little bit, just, go over what you've learned. Now, obviously, that was just a brief snapshot today, but I feel it gives you a good basis to work on, and when you do come back in for your next lesson, I will just be going over some of the things that we learned to make sure they've sunk in. Alright? So, is there anything else you would like to ask me about today's lesson? Fabulous. Well, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I do actually have, what's the time? Yes, I do actually have another student in just a couple of minutes. I do. But it's been lovely working with you today, and I believe I'll see you again, is it next week or in a couple of weeks? Perfect. Well, I will see you then. And again, you have the student forum online, so you can talk to others on there as well if you need any extra help. Wonderful. Will you enjoy the rest of your day? Okay. Bye then. Bye. A star for effort. Very good. What a sweet